Hey guys, in today's video I will be chatting. It will be a rambly chatty video about a topic that has been on my mind for quite some time now, and yesterday one of you shared a piece of information that was kind of like the cherry on the pie for me to really start digging into it a little bit deeper and thinking about it. I think I mentioned that briefly a few months ago when I told you guys that the hospital where I work made it absolutely mandatory that we wear, the surgical masks instead of the fabric ones that were allowed before. Just FYI, I still use my fabric one, and I used only one surgical mask for the whole time that I was still complying with the rule. I would just put my own face mask and then I would put the surgical mask over top of that. It was quite the suffering, let me tell you. And then a few weeks ago they finally said you don't have to wear the masks anymore when you are in the department because everyone's vaccinated, the numbers are going down, blah blah blah. It was a great time to be alive. And then 2 weeks later the Delta variant took over and we went back to wearing masks. But I was like, fuck it, I'm not going to be wearing those surgical, disposable masks because I am really against them. So I'll just continue to wear my fabric one, because I've really been struggling with the idea of how much unnecessary waste we have created this pandemic by wearing these disposable surgical masks. I think instead of encouraging people to wear surgical masks, governments should have done the exact opposite. They should have encouraged their citizens to wear the fabric ones, to wash them regularly, to reuse them, to diminish at least somewhat the amount of unrecyclable crap that we are creating. I don't want to rant about that too long because this was only just a getaway into me starting to think a bit more consciously about all the garbage that we are creating. Where is that going? I've always known that that is a huge issue in our society and I've never been blind to it, and I'm not a very wasteful person, so I always thought, I'm doing my best here. But recently it's been bothering me even more, and it also fits a little bit more into my newer kind of mentality, which is to have fewer but nicer things. Taking my Auric Glow Last now, of course. And as you guys know, with makeup I've already kind of made that transition. I no longer buy everything that I see out that catches my eye because it's just not sustainable. I don't have the time to use them. They lay unused in my drawers and that stresses me out. I don't know how other people don't get stressed out when they look into their makeup collections and they see stuff that they've used once or they've never used and it's just laying there gathering dust, and most likely it's going to end up in a declutter pile, and that declutter pile is not going to end up being passed on. No, it's going to end up as garbage, and that really bothers me. I don't know how people do that. Maybe they just don't really think about it or they don't give a shit, I don't know. And it's one of the other things that I struggle with. If I give a shit but 100,000 other people don't give a shit, then what difference am I making anyway? Same, as with the hospital regulations. I wear my fabric mask, everyone else wears the disposable surgical mask, so I'm making zero difference. I'm, just stubbornly refusing to wear them because I don't want to participate in the creation of that waste. But, I do participate in the creation of other types of waste, such as diapers, for instance. So, it's this, very complicated matter where if you start thinking about it too hard you get very despaired because there's really almost no real solution. You can try your best, but then we need to try our best all together collectively, not just me or you. But unfortunately we're not quite there yet, and I'm afraid that by the time we're there it's already going to be, we would have already invoked irreparable damage to planet Earth, and she will eliminate us like the freaking parasites that we are. So with makeup I've already, as you have noticed, started to buy less things but more sustainable things, in the sense that I buy the more expensive makeup that I know I'm going to enjoy and use to that until it's finished, and then I'm going to toss it. I no longer want to buy ColourPop palettes because they're super cheap and then they're going to lay in my drawers because I enjoyed them 3 times and then I didn't enjoy them anymore, which is the case for me now. I have a couple of ColourPop palettes that I haven't touched this year at all. Just FYI, speaking of fewer but nicer things, I am so happy to have invested in this brush. This is the classic base from the Fusion series by Sonia G. It is an amazing brush to apply your foundation. I never want to apply my foundation with anything else but this brush. Or, you know, one of its smaller sisters, which is the mini base brush. But if you prefer something bigger for your foundation, this is the brush you want to go for. I'm taking my Dior Backstage, which I'm trying to pan, as I indicated in my previous video. So on the note of like fewer and nicer things, I recently started thinking about my wardrobe, my clothes. And one of the reasons that I started thinking about it is I was so our shops here have become very sad in the sense that in the past few years, since online shopping became very popular, I feel like a lot of stores, a lot of the better stores closed doors, and now it's just, you know, cheap crap that is flooding the streets and everything else is online. So I had already started to shop for clothes a little bit more online than in person. And one of the main places where I would go to shop for clothes was Zalando. It's like a huge online store and they sell mostly like more, not high-end, well they sell more higher end, like mid-range and higher end products. And they have so many brands that the first few times I went on their website, I just became overwhelmed and I didn't know where to start. And then a few years ago, I started trying brands and I had narrowed down my favorites to a couple of brands, amongst which were brands like Mint & Berry, Kiyomi, Warehouse, Closet. And unfortunately, most of these brands are UK-based brands. So a few days ago when I was checking the website, I found out that they have pulled out, or well, not pulled out, but Zalando doesn't stock them anymore. I'm taking my mood light, ambient lighting powder. But Zalando doesn't stock them anymore, and I was complaining to my friends, like, where am I ever going to buy clothes now? I wouldn't know where to start looking for new brands, you know, that fit me well and that feel like, you know, nice fabrics. And the other side of the coin was, recently I've been thinking about the types of fabrics that are represented in my wardrobe. And if you are anything like me, then 99% of your wardrobe is probably dominated by polyester. And I've been thinking a lot about that and I've been struggling with it, and I hadn't really dug deeper into the topic. It was just kind of like crossing my mind that maybe, as with makeup, I would like to transition with my fashion choices into more, you know, fewer but nicer things, like clothes that are made of higher quality fabrics, maybe more natural fabrics, because in the back of my mind I always thought, I think natural fabrics are probably just going to be better for me, for the environment, for sustainability, so on and so forth. For my bronzer, I'm going to take the Baked bronzer from Milk. So yesterday, in a totally different context, in a totally different conversation, one of you lovely ladies mentioned someone, she's a YouTuber. I know her as a YouTuber. Maybe she's known as, you know, a personal stylist amongst others, but I discovered her via YouTube because I immediately searched her on YouTube to find if she has a YouTube channel. And her name is, I want to say, Daria Andronescu or something of the sort. I will have her channel linked down below. And then I went to her channel, and the first few videos that immediately caught my eye were a couple of videos she had made about the different types of fabrics and, you know, their how creating those fabrics impacts the environment. Are they sustainable? Are they biodegradable? And of course, the synthetics like polyester, nylon, acrylic, they're not degradable, they're not sustainable, they demand a lot from nature, they are not the types of fabrics to want to use. And if you really want to be a bit more sustainable with using those fabrics, you need to look for polyester clothes which are made with recycled polyester from like plastic bottles. And then I watched her videos on cotton, linen, silk, and you know, with almost all of these, it's like a separate can of worms that you open, because there are always issues with either how much impact the making of these fabrics has on the environment, or the moral issues of where these fabrics are created and how factories are treating their workers. It's like a can of worms that once you open, you start to feel really despaired, because you feel like there's just no right way for you personally to approach this as a consumer in order to become a part of the solution and not stay a part of the problem. You have already seen from the title of the video that we are going to be pairing melt palettes today. I figured why not try to incorporate other melt products, and I don't really have other melt products aside from eyeshadow palettes, but I do have two of their cream blush lights, so I want to use one of them with you today. This is the shade Lynx, which is a gorgeous orange with like coppery bronze sparkle to it. It's so beautiful. I really love these blushes, and especially the undertones, which I have made no secret. So the next, after watching those videos, and something that I didn't realize, for instance, I have a couple of pieces from Uniqlo, and Uniqlo uses a lot of rayon cotton in their fabrics, in their clothes. And I thought that rayon is better, but it's not. And another interesting thing she also mentioned is that if you buy something which is a mix of fabrics, it is not recyclable. So if it's like a mix of cotton and viscose, or a mix of cotton and polyester, or whatever mix it is not recyclable. And I can tell you, 99.99% of my wardrobe would be unrecyclable. Something I want to mention in terms of like my personal, taste in clothes. I am not an H&M type of person. I'm not a fast fashion type of person. Like Forever 21 and these kind of brands have no appeal to me, also because I'm not a teenager. So I've always shopped into, like I already mentioned, like Warehouse Closet, more like mid-range brands, but absolutely not like luxurious brands, and I've never really paid attention to the fabrics that the clothes are made of. So they are absolutely not more sustainable. They were just more in like the mid-range of clothing, so that they are the fabrics feel better, the fittings are nicer, because a problem I've always had with H&M is that their stuff looks nice on the mannequin, and then as soon as I put it on, I'm like, but who thought of this fitting? It's so dumb. Well, here I am going to dip into the real archives in my makeup collection. I'm going to take this very old Kiko highlighter that came in a limited edition holiday collection in 2016. I performed surgery on it, and I enucleated these two pink stripes over here just to be left with the more rose golden part, because I really liked the rose golden part and I hated the pink stuff, and I didn't want to throw away the highlighter just because I disliked the two pink stripes. Besides the point, I'm just going to use this highlighter today because it's been a while and I'm curious how I will enjoy it. I'm sorry, this video is like very all over the place because like thoughts just come into my mind and I'm just like spewing them out for you, so hopefully you can make some sort of sense of what I'm saying. But after I watched her video, I thought to myself, well, how the fuck am I going to find these like more sustainable brands? And luckily, this lady is full of information, and I found a blog post from her, which might be already a bit outdated, where she actually had categorized sustainable brands into like more classic, more business, more creative, more, romantic styles, and she also had indicated the price range and where they come from. Like if you're EU-based, there are EU-based brands which ship within the EU or maybe even worldwide. She had Australian brands, US-based brands. She really is, so far I'm quite impressed with her content, I have to say. And I already stumbled across a couple of actual like Dutch brands which are more sustainable. And then of course I went onto their website to check out what they have and what the price ranges really are. And then comes the second issue, or not issue, but it really depends how you think about it. This is still a really pretty highlighter. I don't know what you think about it, but I think it's still a really pretty highlighter. I think Kiko is such an underrated brand. Not all of their products are created equal, but a lot of their products are really good quality. Anyway, I found out that of course the clothes, the more sustainable, eco-friendly, natural synthetics, they are more expensive. Everything was in the range of 100 to 200 euros. What am I looking for? There it is. But before I proceed, let me just quickly tell you what I'm going to start doing with the Rust palette. I think I'm going to actually use the Rust palette for the most part, because only my lower lash line is going to be the Smoke Sessions palette. But on my upper eyelid I'm going to do my favorite thing that I always do with this palette, which is this shade and this shade on my lid. these two shades in my crease with this one or this one to deepen up, something of the sorts. Like, I'm not doing anything that I wouldn't usually do with this palette. I love this palette to create more warm toned brown smoky eyes, basically. So the issue is that if you are someone who is on a very tight budget, you don't make a lot of money at your job, you live in a country where salaries are pretty poor, you are a student, for whatever reason you don't have a lot of disposable income, let me tell you, being sustainable is very expensive and very much out of your budget. Even if you were to think about it, okay, I will buy less pieces per year. Well, if your whole budget for the year is $200 for clothing and you spend it on one piece of clothing, that's not a solution to the problem either, you know. It's very difficult to be on a budget and be sustainable at the same time. So I don't know what the solution for that is. But let's say you are at the stage of your life, for instance, where I am, where instead of going 10 times out to the city and buying shit that's, I don't know, that you spend 50 euros on 10 times a year, and you spend a total amount of 500 euros to buy, I don't know, 10 or 15 cheaper things, you spend that same amount of money buying less pieces per year, let's say like 3 to 5 pieces per year, depending on the price range of the brand that you are looking at. And that will be your, you know, the way that you can make impact in terms of being more sustainable with your clothing. Like, you still spend the same amount of money per year that you consider to be a normal disposable income when you buy clothes, but you just bought less pieces. And I am, for instance, now at this stage in my life because I already have a lot of clothes. And something else I wanted to add about the way I use clothes. I may be someone who doesn't buy the best fabrics or is very sustainable with their clothing already, but I do use the clothes that I have for a ridiculously long amount of time. Let me tell you, until a few years ago, before I got pregnant and couldn't fit into a bunch of my clothes anymore, I had pairs of jeans that I have had since I was 20. I'm 38 years old. I had them for a good 15 years, and the only reason I tossed them was not because I wanted to toss them, but because I just didn't fit in them anymore. I was actually really pissed about it. So I keep my clothes for a ridiculously long amount of time. I keep my clothes and I wear them actively for at least 5 to 7 years before they either are worn out or I truly just get tired of them and I cannot look at them anymore. So I have a relatively, you know, I don't think I have a huge wardrobe, and that's the other thing, I don't want it to get out of control because I, first of all, don't have the space for that, and second of all, it's unnecessary. So now at this point I feel like, okay, maybe it's time for me to start thinking about this purchasing clothes thing in a different way. I will buy fewer pieces per year, but I will try to, you know, invest into higher quality fabrics and something that is more sustainable and eco-friendly. And yes, it's a small step, but you know, it's my small step that I can contribute. So with that comes my question for you guys. If you are EU based, can you recommend shops that you know are trustworthy, that they make good clothes, have good fittings, good fabrics? And oh yeah, with that comes my next question to you, or next, you know, little fact about the way I use clothes. I have no patience. I'm extremely impatient, and I will probably not be someone who can deal with fabrics that are too high maintenance. If we have a fabric that requires to hand wash and to like say a bunch of prayers before you wash it, so basically if you have to baby the fabric, that's a little bit of a problem for me because I don't know if I would have the patience for that. So for instance, that is one of the reasons I've never really looked seriously into buying anything that is made of silk, because I just feel like, knowing myself, I will not have the patience to deal with how you need to take care of silk, and I will fuck it up and I will hate myself for that, and I will relapse right back into buying polyester. So knowing this about me, maybe you can make a recommendation of what kind of fabrics would be well suited for me, if you have any specific stores that you would recommend. Yesterday I came across, and I actually already have something in my basket from that store, a store based in Germany which is called, I think, Ayani. I will try to leave the link in the description box below. It was one of the websites that Daria had recommended in that blog post, and I not only fell in love with one of the dresses. So they used recycled polyester to make the clothes, by the way. I not only fell in love with one of the dresses, but I found out that the owner is an Armenian woman and she makes the clothes in Armenia. And if you didn't know that about me, guys, ethnically I am 100% Armenian. I was born in Bulgaria, I live in the Netherlands, but my parents are Armenian, and like my ethnic heritage is Armenian 100%. So that little fact really warmed my heart, and I am like this close to buying the dress. But then again, it's a dress that costs 120 euros. I have never in my life paid so much for a piece of clothing that is, you know, just like utilitarian clothing. I've only paid this much for like a wedding dress or like a ball gown or something, you know, for a very special occasion that was, you know, a ball gown. Nothing in my wardrobe that is a utilitarian piece has ever cost this much. Or if it has, I bought it on sale. And it was probably not from a sustainable brand, because I get the impression that part of the spiel with being sustainable is that you're not going to be like a fast fashion where you have a lot of things on sale. But I was very curious what your stance on this is. Have you thought about it? Or maybe you're already like 10 steps ahead of me, in which case please do share your experience with me and how I should best approach this. I'm taking now my glitter glue, by the way, and going to apply that all over my lid. I'm very curious about your opinion. You guys seem to be the type of people that always have really good input for me, so I would love to hear that. Alright, now I am going to take my trusty finger and apply this shade and this shade consequentially all over my lid. I really enjoy this shade because it has the most beautiful undertone to it. I don't have a brown in my collection from another brand that is quite the undertone of this shade from Melt, and I adore it. And then on the other half of my lid I'm taking the more goldeny shade. Again, a very interesting undertone of gold, like a darker, more muted gold. Absolutely beautiful. Now I'm going to take my little brush here to blend out around the edges, and in, you know, the spirit of being more sustainable and using shit in my collection that hardly ever sees the light of day, I would like to dip into my Cliona Multichromes. And I would like to take this shade a little bit all over the lid, because this is the shade, what is it called again? This is the shade Heiress, and Heiress has very similar tones to the shades in the Melt palette, so I like pairing them. And I like applying this shade, just the tiniest bit of it, like this, here in the center of the lid, and a bit over top of that brown shade, because it gives it the most beautiful and interesting effect. I'm actually going to take this yellow into my inner corner, because the Melt palettes don't really have anything that would go really well in my inner corner, and I think the yellow will just look really pretty, why not? So let's apply this as our inner corner highlight shade, a little bit of that yellow. You can't see it right now, but I'm aside from this black top from Uniqlo, I'm wearing a pair of green pants, and my green pants have the exact color of this shade here. This is the shade Mean Green, which is also one of the most beautiful shades in this palette, because it has a beautiful shine to it, so much impact, and it's such a gorgeous and unique undertone of green in my personal opinion. So I am going to be applying this shade all over my lower lash line. As a base for that, I'm going to take a little bit of a green pencil. I'm just going to use this one from Essence. It is the shade Have a Green. I have other greens from my Kiko eyeshadow sticks, but they're all a little bit too bright and too blue of a green. And I would prefer something that is more of like a deep forest green. You can definitely use this shade to blend out a little bit, but I have this other brush that I really enjoy. This is from a brand that I don't really have any other brushes from. This is the only brush I have from them, and I specifically was searching for this brush for years. It's a small blending brush for your lower lash line. I mean, you can use it for anything else, but I use it specifically for my lower lash line. So I'm going to blend out Mean Green with this brush. And I think as a very, very final touch, I am going to take this very dark brown shade on my little precision brush, and I'm just going to use the tip of the brush to sort of stamp here in the very outer corner and very close to the lashes, a bit as a improvised liner, to just give a little bit more of depth. For a split second there, I truly hesitated if I wanted to put the same lipstick that I had on in my previous video, but then I thought, fuck it, it is the most perfect lipstick for this look, so I am going to fucking wear it. So I am wearing, again, the NARS Audacious lipstick in the shade Deborah, which is a wonderful warm chocolate brown. I think I'm going to wrap this video up here, you guys, because I don't feel like right now I have anything more to say on the topic, and I feel like we're going to have a wonderful discourse about it in my comment section, so I can't wait to see you there. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!